Welcome everyone to the return of the Road to Glory Baseball podcast. We're back with another season, and it is your host, your commissioner, and sadly, your former RtGB World Champion, Coach Will. But this time, I come with a great co-host, a mainstay of the Road to Glory Fantasy Baseball League, among others, and the most recent third place finisher. Behold, Coach Andrew.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully we can make that third place, first place this season.
I want to root for you. The fact of the matter is,
Let's hear.
The track record has become concerning with reaching third but not beyond.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's not our topic this time. I'm sure there will be other episodes where we can go in a playoff history. But the general format, everyone, is how we're gonna first half discuss the league, of course. That's our main attraction. The happenings and goings. Maybe a spicy trade happened, but more likely, just some crazy photo finishes in the previous matchup, standing us updates, all that good stuff. Then we'll transition into the IRL part of the show, where we will talk about some interesting baseball topic that has come to mind. And let's get started right away with this week in RtG Baseball. So we started this new season with a plethora of changes, and one of them being right away, week 1, double matchup. We actually had this last year, and maybe like 1 or 2 other years sprinkled in, but last year was more like really because CBS has the feature to do this. Behind the scenes, this lets me, your commissioner, make an even amount of games, because with 12 teams, 1 division, I want 22 games. Everyone faces each other once. So the double matchups help with that. Andrew, did you feel the stress of suddenly having 2 opponents right away?
And not just any 2 opponents. I went up against yours truly and the always formidable Matab. So that was a pretty rough 1-2 punch to start the season.
I understand. And in fact, this was kind of the idea. Usually my commissioner decisions are pretty balanced, but this time I knew what I was doing, and I'll explain, because I wanted the drama to be the, in theory, best teams from the previous year start off all facing each other. And actually the way these double matchups work, if you're facing 2 people, then those 2 people are facing each other and you and everyone, so it's all grouped together. So I wanted first, second, and third to all face each other, and then everything else could be randomized. But I knew that in theory, I shouldn't be happy with that either. I would want to face just the worst people. So that's why it is what it is. I have the numbers, by the way. From last week, you were the 6th highest scoring team. And since there's 12 teams in total, you would think that would have resulted in at least 1 win out of 2. But unfortunately, you are bested by me and in a narrowly by Matab as well. So 0-2 start, not the best.
Long season.
It's a long season and it's a balanced season. So for anyone else in that position too, maybe you face 2 Titans and you're off to an 0-2 start. Or perhaps the inverse to you would be Coach Viraj, who he scored the 3rd fewest amount of points, but his competition was worse than him. So he faced the 2nd to worst and worst scoring teams. So that's a 2-0 start for Coach Viraj. So in either of your cases, long season, and remember, everyone still faces everyone, same amount of 2 times each. So even though there's a double matchup now, you will in the end have faced everyone the same amount of times.
Get the tough ones out of the way early.
No, I mean, yeah, that's right. You get out of the way. You don't have to worry about Matabarai until the second half of the season because it's also balanced in that way. So you're gonna face
Uh,
everyone once before you face anyone twice.
that's good. That way, if someone's on a heater to start, but then they fall off, or other way around, um, everyone will get a chance to, hopefully, as close as possible, play teams at their peak and not their peak.
You would hope. And by the way, I painstakingly made that be the case. So you're welcome, everybody. Now, the let's just go through our 2-0 team. So the people that were first in their group of 3, so they got 2 wins, is me, Coach Viraj, we already said, Coach Nick, and Coach Nate. This might be a good time to advertise the pool of participants is pretty diverse fan bases now. So you might refer to Coach Will, the Yankee fan, Coach Viraj, another Yankees fan, Coach Nate, the Guardians fan, Coach Nick, the Royals fan. So all those fan bases, 2-0. And then the teams that won once would be Coach Jamie, Coach Ratab, Coach Phil, and Coach Eric. And the teams that lost to both of their opponents would be you, Coach Show, Coach Brian, and Coach Rachel. I think the most concerning team on this list is Coach Rachel, who had high hopes last season. Surprisingly, the draft analysts actually rated her having the best draft in 2024. But this season, well, last season, it doesn't work out. This season, she did not, even with auto draft for maybe some of her drafts, an unknown percentage of draft, was not ranked well at all in the draft. And now in week 1, she scored the fewest of any team. This doesn't look good.
She's gonna have to make some moves and make them quickly if she wants to get back into this.
Because things could snowball. You just had a double matchup, and let's pull up the schedule here, and we will go to Team Legit Queen Stays Queen. So after she was part of that group of the lowest scoring teams. Arguably, this was an opportunity to get ahead. Now she faces coaches Brian, and then Nick, and then Nate, and then Jamie. A mix of power levels there, but you really want to get through that with as many wins as you can, because to brag, later in the season, matchup 7, Matab, matchup 8, me, matchup 9, you. There's a gauntlet coming up in like a month and a half. So this is the time for everyone to get your team
Cash it
together.
in while you can.
Yeah, get your team together, get ready. Maybe pay attention to who's doing the best on free agency and pitching and hitting. I am curious if you can get this right, though. So, just thinking about observing the baseball world, who are some hitters that you think have scored the best in our fantasy league so far?
Interesting. I am admittedly pretty heavily biased towards my team, the Red Sox.
What if I told you that that's not going to hurt you too much in this exercise?
Well, there's a couple players that have stood out offensively so far this season. Willie Abreu has been one.
Willie Abreu, the number 2 hitter in all of fantasy through matchup 1, so not today. Everything other than today, with 120 points, 3 home runs, 3 doubles, 8 singles, a WOBA of 615. No, he's been great.
And he had a walk-off this weekend against St. Louis, so he's tearing it up right now.
He is on, it looks like, Jamie's team. So good for Jamie. Throw out one more hitter you think is doing well.
Well, another standout hitter has been rookie sensation Christian Campbell.
Christian Campbell, the number 1 second baseman in fantasy and the number 4 hitter in fantasy. Truly remarkable. And he's done it with only 2 home runs, but almost 500 WOBA. I wonder if I could switch this. Does CBS give me OPS? Oh, yes, it does. 1.143 OPS for Christian Campbell
Very impressive.
in match of 1.
He just has not looked phased at all. Just hitting everything, making hard contact. And at a defensive position that he's not totally used to either. So
He's playing outfield as well? Or
no,
second?
he's playing second, but that's not his. He had played outfield
Oh,
in the
interesting.
minors.
So CBS has him as a second baseman, probably because he was announced to be their second baseman. So he probably at some point will gain outfield eligibility as well if like every now and then he plays the outfield.
He hasn't yet.
Hasn't yet. Okay. Even so, it is my opinion that for hitters in fantasy, the infield is what's valuable. It's going to be easier to find a hot outfielder on waivers or trade for someone's like third outfielder than trade for someone's like number 1 second baseman,
Yeah.
for example. So credit to Phil, who has Christian Campbell, has him because in the first ever minor league draft, drafted Christian Campbell. So nice work. We'll see if that keeps up. The number one player, by the way, not Aaron Judge, but Kyle Tucker. So that's kind of cool. For pitchers, it's not. I think it's harder to have an update on points just because it's if you've had more starts
per start.
Yeah, and even that it's too early for like a rate stat like that. I think.
Yeah,
but
because you're just gonna have a smaller sample size than at bats.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, Braves pitcher Spencer Schellenbach is the number 1 starting pitcher, and he's pitched twice. Nathan Eovaldi
and the
is
Braves
second.
have been terrible.
Yep. Well, this is when you are happy that in this league it is just your raw performance and not like wins and quality starts that get you points. Funny enough, number 3 pitcher, Chris Martin, relief pitcher on the Rangers. It's pretty rare. Despite what I've done to beef up relievers, they are not usually like highly ranked compared to starting pitchers.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to get reliable, knowing what their play time is going to be. Position player, it's like, okay, they're probably going to play every day. Maybe they'll have an off day a week. Starting pitcher, when they're coming in the rotation. But a relief pitcher, it just, even the best ones, it depends, especially on how the team is doing. So it can be tricky to plan around because you don't know exactly, their play time is not necessarily exactly connected to their ability.
Indeed. By the way, plug for anyone who likes accessing the league on the website versus the app. If you go to the player, like available players or even just all players page, you'll end up it'll be defaulted on projections. You can switch that to stats, which would be just how they've done so far. And there'll be a drop down that says categories. It defaults to standard, has some nice stats. Like for pitchers, it has game started, strikeouts, ERA, whip. You can change that drop down from standard to either scoring or advanced. Both of them give you some pretty cool new stats to look at. So on the scoring tab of the drop down, one of them is points per batter's faced, just PTS PBF if you're looking at the column headers. So again, very too early for rate stats yet, but eventually this will be nice. You could sort by how many points does this pitcher get per batter they face, which should help no matter how many games started they have, arrange things the way you want it to. So we had an explosive start to the fantasy season. It's a long season. It's early. It's week 1, but as someone who's won twice, I am happy. And even if you're someone like Andrew who has started off with 2 losses, you just take the opposite opinion of like, oh, we'll get them next time. Just let's go 20-2 is the plan.
Yeah, I mean, you can't necessarily expect that, but we've seen it plenty of times where even you yourself, have gotten off to a rough start, you know, oh and whatever, but you crawl back, and by the end of the season, it's the separation is not as large as you might think, and all you need to do is make it end, and
That's a great point
if your
because
team is good enough,
making it in has taken a new meaning this time. Here's the biggest rule change other than the new double match to start the season is that we have had 6 teams in the playoffs for quite a while, but now we've expanded playoffs just like real life. Now it is 7 teams. And also to mimic kind of my favorite period of real life, it happens with a 1-game playoff. So picture in your mind the usual quarterfinals, semifinals, final format. There's one more round before that for the 6th and 7th seed to face each other. And the winner of that advances as the new 6th seed and things proceed as normal. So everyone should have an opportunity. And Coach Andrew's right. With only 22 games, separation's never going to be that. Like, it's not going to be insurmountable until like the last week, second to last week of season or something. But I'm excited to see
I've
it play
got
out.
the 2004 standings pulled up. You can go all the way back to 26. Well, actually, the stats aren't there for them, but we can.
That's your commissioner's fault because I've only partway finished doing that.
Aha. Okay, don't look there yet, everyone.
Eventually.
But in 2024, you can see the standings. And in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th place are the Islanders at 12-10. So that might be and then at 7th place you have 10-12. So, you know, just because you start off slow doesn't mean you can't crawl your way back.
Agreed. Now, maybe a month from now, then the topic on this show is going to be, all right, it's time for urgency. Like, let's go. We're almost at the halfway point. But for now.
Well, and the flip side to that too is, I've run into this where I have a pretty good start. As was the case last year, I have the number 3 seed. I might get to the playoffs, but run out of steam. So you also can't take your foot off the pedal. If you're in the lead, it can slip away just as easily as you got yourself into that position. So,
Oh, for
not
sure.
a lot of room for complacency.
And in this context, like taking your foot off the pedal would be, hey, you have clinched the playoffs already, so you don't need to like keep adding the next big thing from waivers. You don't need to be keeping an eye on when the 2 starts purchase are. And while it's true that you can get away with that and still be in the playoffs, your competition, who has been struggling to make the playoffs, has continued. So now, like, their team may have actually improved while yours stayed stagnant,
Mhm.
and then that shows up in the playoffs. So I
And
definitely agree with you there.
and sometimes it's not, the best player on your roster that makes all the difference, it's that last spot because injuries will happen, players will go through slumps, and you're gonna have to put the backups in, and if your backups aren't as good, that can come to back to bite you.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, for sure. All right. So best of luck in matchup two, everybody. Let's transition to our IRL baseball talk. Today's topic is going to be just like we have a bunch of rule changes in our league. We're going to take a look at the rule changes over the years in Major League Baseball and what we think of them. Do we like them? Do we hate them? All that stuff. I tried to gather as many just things that changed as I could, and I think I've decided to just let's just get the obvious one out of the way. In like the 1800s, they were figuring out what the game was. So like changes happened every single year. Like there was a year where they decided let's let them throw overhand instead of forcing to go underhand. Okay, so I understand those are good changes, but we're not really gonna consider those for this talk unless you really have something you have in mind, Andrew.
The only one on that note I could think of is when they, outlawed the spitball.
Hey, that's on the list. The year
Oh.
they banned the uh moistured balls. But okay. So I'm gonna start with some just rapid fire. Uh just tell me if you think uh it was great, home run, it was okay, single, or you hate it, strikeout.
Alright.
Uh in 1895, they figured out that they should have the infield fly rule.
Home run.
I agree. That was just a it makes sense, but only after like you watch it happen in front of your face. It's like, oh, okay, we
Yeah,
shouldn't let
you're
that.
not gonna think of it to start, but it's just an obvious loophole that is just kinda dumb if it doesn't exist.
Uh, let's. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna save playoff format to the end.
Uh,
Uh, in 1971, helmets are mandatory now.
yeah, you gotta home run.
You can't, you can't just die.
It's yeah, it's, you know, um, yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think your bias is going to answer for you here. In 1973, the American League adopts the designated hitter.
Yeah, it's a big papi home run for me.
Home run for me too. But I acknowledge I'm an American League fan.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
what I do.
and it's one of those I understand the romanticism of it. Um, but it's also one of those in practice, it's just eh, it's not backyard baseball. The unless you're Shohei Ohtani, um, you're not as good of a hitter as the other hitters. And if you are, then guess what? They'll let you do both. So, uh,
But you know, I
there's a
thought it was
reason why
important.
Shohei's the only one because none of the
You're
other
right.
ones are
You're right.
good at it. They
But you
would rather
know,
have someone else.
it was important to include this because for 100 years the pitcher hit,
Yeah.
and even after this, in college the pitcher hit, and in high school the pitcher hit, and in little league,
Mhm.
I don't even know if there's pitchers in the league. Actually, maybe there is. No, actually, there probably is. I'm thinking of T-ball, but uh, so someone had to actively change it. And you know what? Let's fast forward 50 years. Then in 2022, the DH is imposed on the National League as well. So now it's a universal DH. So we have two things. We have transition to half the league having the DH, And now we have a transition to both leagues having a DH. And by the way, I'm gonna go first this time. My answer is a home run because we're growing up, it was always the leagues are different, and it was weird. It doesn't make sense. Why should they be different? And I was happy that they were not different anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. It's fun to have the pitcher hit sometimes, and there's certain level of charm, but in most scenarios, it's just uh, an automatic out, which is just there's a reason why no one's clamoring for it back because it it didn't add as much as it took away.
That's a great point because it's hard to either quantify this or be unambiguous about opinions here. But there are other rule changes on this list that people do complain about today.
Mhm.
Whereas you're right, after it's been 2 years or so, and maybe there's just low priority list, but I don't hear people wishing to get their pitcher to hit again.
No, I haven't heard a single person complain about not having the pitcher hit in the National League.
So between the 70s and the 2000s, there was lots of little things. There was a lot of league expansion and playoffs things, but again, we'll do that after. The next like really like wow change comes in 2008. This is our era now.
Mm,
So in 2008, we add instant replay for
mm.
views, for home runs, and for fair foul, like down the foul lines. Now that you know where it's led to, what do you think about it?
So I guess it depends um if I'm just reviewing like those changes specifically and not um what it currently is. I would say a double.
Double, okay.
Um, it was necessary. Um, it didn't go all the way, and at that point in time, it wasn't as seamless as it is now, though it's still not perfect now. It was pretty slow at the time. So I'd say like that snapshot in time uh was a good change, but um it wasn't perfect and they didn't go all the way.
Understood. Let's just do it all the replay review now. So 6 years later in 2014, they would expand replay. Now you can challenge a lot more, and not just the home runs, the foul balls. This, I'm still gonna say a single, but I was tempted to call it out because like over the years, like the replay, like I see what it is on TV, and the umpire review doesn't agree with me, even though like I'm watching it, and that hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things. Like I think overall we're better with it than without it. But like you said, there will sometimes be a play that so obviously was called incorrectly on the field and it doesn't get overturned. So then, the fans are left wondering, well, what's the point? Why did we um do this anyway? Do this in the first place? And then like another thing that kind of bugs me a little is um the manager is waiting for the call from upstairs and they're waiting 15 seconds and it I think I would almost prefer more you don't get to get the call, just go based off of what your players tell you what you see with your own eyes. Because then if you can't tell and the players can't tell, um, then it was probably, pretty close. That's also why, some of those plays going to second base where, people are doing these crazy slides. It's like, okay, technically, he's safe or he's out or whatever, but um, I don't know. It doesn't feel as much in the spirit of
Yeah, it gives us some like when I can see when I can see it a tag evaded with my eye, it's cool.
yeah,
When it takes the replay and even then like it's like zoomed and slowed down, then not as cool. But then again, like obviously if I see the replay and he didn't tag him, I want him to be safe. So that
oh,
is tough.
and it definitely is, especially with reviews in other sports. Um, you know, the 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 genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. I don't think I think with replay you have to take the good with the bad, and I don't think you can go back. Um, and overall, I'd say it's a net positive. You don't end up with situations like what's his name, who
But
had the
different man.
perfect game.
Oh, Jim Joyce.
Yeah. Um, if something like
It does
that
it yeah,
happens,
it
yeah, you can.
avoids just the like stuff that you cannot have happen, it prevents that. So that's good.
Yeah,
My emotions really drop it. It's probably really a double, but my emotions take it down to a single. Just all of them.
yeah.
I don't praise it for when it works. I only criticize it when it fails. Um,
I'd say
continuing though,
if they took it away tomorrow, we would really miss it, which is why I give it a double.
I can agree. I respect that. I'm gonna zoom past the injury rules here. Buster Posey rule and Chase Utley rules get added. Uh, I don't want people to get injured. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, it's kind of like the helmet rule. It's just
Yeah, it did get take away a rule that I'm sure other people were fine with, but like when I hear it explained, I'm like, what? So with the Chase Utley rule, takes away the neighborhood play. I'm
mhm,
like, he was close enough to second base. We'll call him out. I'm like, and that was gonna go anyway because with replay, then that just doesn't work either.
yeah.
But uh I don't want the neighborhood. I wanted the rules to be the rules. So that's with that. Um, I'm gonna fast forward to 2020. So now we're in. Not only is it our era, it is like our adult, like real person ages. In 2020, among the other pandemic rules, we see the three batter minimum for pitchers.
Mhm.
And by the way, I found out that there actually was no rule for this until 1909. Relief pitcher must face at least one batter. So that rule lasts until 2020.
Huh,
Now they
didn't
have to
know that
face
was
three
real.
batters. This did not last, but we had 7 inning doubleheaders
Mhm.
briefly, and it's the extra innings runner. So let's. I'm just gonna just real quick. Three batter minimum. Uh, I'm actually gonna call it an out because it just hasn't.
Interesting.
I haven't felt the like it's done nothing for me. I
Uh,
thought I thought it was gonna be good. Like I thought I was gonna actively like it and be planning for it in my head, but that just has not been the case for me.
I it's interesting. For me, I think I might have that at home run. Um,
Okay, go
not
ahead.
that it's like it's more of like it's not like a moonshot home run. It's like a maybe an inside the Parker. Um, but
Splitting hairs here, but all right.
I think what we don't miss, even if people don't realize, is um the unending uh trips from the manager to the mound to bring in yet another relief pitcher. And
That's true.
multiple
The
times
the
per
Rays
inning.
four pitchers per inning for the Rays.
Yeah, and that was just exhausting and really, you know, cut into the flow of the game. And in my opinion, you should be, if you're a major league pitcher, I know it's harder, lefty righty matchups, but you should be able to, face more than one batter. And as it turns out, they are. And I think it's the sort of thing where we don't necessarily notice the existence of the rule, but we would notice its absence.
Those are absolutely fair points. I was happy with it because I thought this was going to change how we think about bullpen
Interesting.
structure, and we're gonna trust like, okay, I can't play matchups. I'm gonna need to have someone who can get lefties and righties out. And what actually happened was plan it perfectly so that I bring in my lefty to face a lefty with 2 outs in the inning. He gets that person out and then does not need to be there
Mm,
the next inning. So I was just disappointed we didn't get that, and that is colored. But you're absolutely right. The Rays
interesting.
and other teams ended up abusing pitching changes. So I'd have to think about it. I wish I could prevent the Rays from doing that with a more interesting rule,
Yeah,
but
it's
I don't
good
I don't know
because
what
it's
that is right
interesting
now.
because I don't, I haven't really looked at that rule from that angle. I didn't really um envision a dramatic change in strategy, which I guess is partly why I wasn't um too disappointed when that isn't what
No,
happened.
makes sense. We got two big ones. So this is gonna be a grand slam home run. We'll get back to 2020 in a second. In 2023, they added the pitch clock.
Yeah.
This is a ultimate grand slam walk off home run.
Yeah, it's just it, it's so good. It's
And
if you look at any old clip from the 70s, you would have thought that they were pitching with the pitch clock at the speed that they're going.
yeah,
And
that's the distinction. You pointed this out to me one time that it's not that I want to add a rule to make a new game. I want to make the game like it was. So actually, if you're someone who loves tradition or loves it old school, you should want this.
yeah, because what it turned into was not what it was for you know folks who watched growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was just and if you're at the game too, it's just so much more engaging. Um,
It was a culture shock though. The first time I went to a game with the pitch clock, like you
yeah.
leave to go to the concessions, and you're missing the whole half inning. It's not. It's just that's the way it is. What it is.
Well, that's why they need to do see they do this at Fenway. They have the people walking around with the all the concessions. They bring the concessions to you. And I think more places should do that more consistently.
Lone Depot Park has that. The Marlins
Yeah.
Stadium. I mean,
Because
it's just literally just like Uber Eats, but still.
I mean it's true. It's like you don't want to miss any action. You don't want to sit in a line, and it's you're more inclined to grab a beer or a snack if they come and bring it to you.
So let's rewind to uh 2020. That is also the first time we had the runner on second in extra innings. It was advertised as temporary in the name of safety, I guess, in 2020, and
Sure.
then just never left, and then became like official permanent in 2022 or 23, something like that. So, what do you think of the extra innings bonus runner?
I think that is a hit by pitch.
A hit by okay. What do you mean by hit by pitch? I'm not sure. I know which.
Uh, because it
Is
doesn't feel
that
good.
sway positive or negative?
It doesn't feel good, but it
Okay.
technically accomplishes the unspoken goal, uh, which is, uh, in the case of Major League Baseball, to speed up the games. It does accomplish that. With they haven't. I don't think they've said that this is why they did it, but it is. Um, Extra innings do go faster in the games and more quickly. Which in some sense, if you're um, attending games like we often do at Camden or Nats Park, um, if it's on a weeknight, that can be nice. Uh, make sure the game ends in a timely manner. But at the end of the day, um, I just don't like it. It makes it when my team wins, as they did on Sunday, with a runner in second. It just wasn't as satisfying as if they had to earn that base runner and really earn that run. And likewise, if my team loses, I'm like, well, they got gypped. Like
Yeah.
of
Well,
course the runner from
you
second scored.
you know, I feel the same way when we win in extra innings, but I don't feel like we get screwed when we lose in extra inning. Usually, my actually like, I can't believe we failed to get a runner in. We deserve to
Sure.
lose. That's usually my feeling. Yeah, I mean, it's still two negative feelings either way, but just a distinction there. In its defense, for this time saving, the Yankees just lost even extra innings in the 11th inning, so it went through two sets of extra innings, and both teams failed to score the extra runner in the 10th. The Yankees failed to score the extra runner in the 11th, and then the Pirates did score with 2 outs. That runner that had the feeling of a game that was going to go a long time if not for the
Oh yeah.
runner gifted. So I think it did save me like an hour of my life at least having it happen like that. So it is doing that, but it didn't. I was all excited for this strategy and like for the should
Oh,
I
yeah, that's the other thing.
norm
Like no one bunts. Like no one.
well yeah and the I thought there's going to be a debate. You know how you bring in your closer in the if you're the home team, bring in your closer in the ninth inning. Sorry, if you're the road team or the away team, to be honest, bring them in the ninth inning because there might not be a 10th inning. So that's what I think, and that's what the Orioles learned at one time. Didn't bring in Zach Britton. But now, with the threat of extra innings, the 10th inning is harder than the ninth inning.
Mm,
Maybe I should save my closer for that. And I was all ready for those debates. But you know what? Those debates really didn't happen. All the attention was to bunt or not to bunt. And the answer was nobody bunted.
yeah.
Anyway, at best, a ground ball, not on purpose, but a ground ball that moved him over in a sacrifice fly. So it's an out for me. Uh,
Yeah.
let's and I'm sure there'll be times to talk about this more, but let's just finish this off with uh playoffs. So depending on what era you grew up in, you had a different definition of what playoffs were. So like for I don't know 100 years almost, it was the champion of one league versus the champion of the other league. So it's one round, the World Series, and that's it. Everybody else losers didn't make the playoffs. And gradually things get being bigger and bigger. So I'm just gonna pull
Yeah.
out the interesting things I found. Uh, so in 1969, we add the East and West divisions for the American and National League. So now there's 4 total divisions, and that is the beginning of the league championship series. So the AL East will face the AL West in the LCS, and then the NL East, NL West champion will face the NLCS, and then the World Series. That league championship series was a best of 5, and the away, like the lower seeded team will have the first 2 games at home, and then the higher seed will have the rest of the games at home. So that was different.
Yeah.
Do you have any like? Do you like 2-2-1? Does this 2-3 tempt you at all?
Um. Yeah,
some
I mean,
games.
I think, 2-3-2
Well, focusing
seems.
on this is best of 5. This was a
Oh,
best of
but
5.
yeah. Yeah,
So this in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was a 2-3 instead of the 2-2-1.
yeah, and that's tough, right? Because yeah, the home team technically gets more games if they need it, but, those first games are, if you go down 0-2, then, you're in a pretty tough hole. I think I would prefer, yeah, like 2-2-1.
I prefer 2-2-1. The World Series was the way we expect it to be.
Yeah.
They did point out that in 1981 there was a strike that started and ended in the middle of the same season. So what they did was they would have, so remember there's 2 divisions per league, so there's 4 divisions. So they had a winner of the first half of your division and a winner of the second half of the first half is in like the first 40 games, and then the next like 100 games, let's say, is the second half of the season.
Hmm.
So so the like AL East first half winner faces the AL East second half winner in the division series, which lasted just for the season only. And this was the first time we ever had the ALDSs and the NLDSs. Uh, and then after this year, went back to normal. But that is what would happen eventually when they add in the division series later in the 90s, in 1995, with the
Interesting.
wild card team. This is when there was one wild card team. Remember, there was a time when there was only 4 playoff teams in each league. Because obviously, like one playoff team from the AL and one from the NL sounds like ludicrous. So that's
Yeah,
like I can't even
in
fathom.
modern times.
Yes, but this was part of our era. So the four teams represent your league and 4 teams from the other league.
Yeah,
Oh
and that, the Red Sox benefited greatly from that because that was the era where the Yankees were the big bad empire, and you know if you're in a tough division, having a wild card can be the only way a team that might be the second best team in the league makes it to the playoffs.
yeah, ostensibly that's what it's there for. It's like I was the second best, and yet I'm not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And eventually they would add a second wild card. So same thing. You could argue, hey, I'm the third best team, and I'm still not in the playoffs. So now there's 2 wild cards. And eventually, present day, there's 3 wild cards. So you would say I'm the fourth best team. I think that's the best argument I can come up with for the current format. So the what I call normal is 4 playoff teams because that's
Mhm.
what I grew up in. So the 3
Per
division
per league.
per league. So 3 division winners and 1 wild card. That's what I thought was normal. So that's 4
Yeah,
teams.
that
And
that's what we
so
both grew up with.
and and 3 and more importantly 3 division winners. So I
Mhm.
think you could say, "Hey, there's 3 division winners and yet or sorry, there's 3 division leaders and a 4th team." So 4 reps. I am the 4th best team. I should be in the playoffs. The playoffs has 4 reps, but I'm not in, therefore 3 wild cards. I think if you think of it like that, that is the best case for there being 3 wild cards right now. Because I wouldn't want 4 wild cards because that would require I'm the 5th best team. Well, that's too bad. 5 team in my world, there was only 4 teams, so the 5th team would never make it anyway.
Yeah. Well, and then at a certain point too, right? You get to if you wanted to just have the top 4 teams make the playoffs, um, then you would just take the teams with the 4 best records, but, we don't do that. We have, divisions, and I do believe divisions are, um, in part what adds, you know, a certain level of intrigue and built-in rivalries, and if I think it's you gotta be careful when moving too far away from that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So my favorite era out of all this is and it was longer than I thought, what I remember, but 2012 to 2019 plus 2021, that's when we had 5 teams per league in the playoffs. But more importantly, it's when we had the 1-game wild card.
I loved the 1-game wild card.
It just made sense. This was, you are deathly afraid of it, so you definitely want to win your division,
At all
because
costs.
by definition, if you're not a division winner, you're either not in the playoffs at all, or you're in this scary wild card game.
Yeah.
So regardless of the impact it might do for the rest of the playoff format, it is so dangerous. You just cannot. That can't be your plan A. Or at least you would be crazy to make that like, I'm fine if I don't need to win the division. I'll just win the wild card game.
Yeah.
Like, no one's gonna
No
realistically say that.
team that like was serious about their World Series aspirations um was reliant upon that.
Now, to be fair, the 2003, or sorry, the 1995 and on, so like the wild card, the first one wild card, that is the same thing. It's just instead of a game, it's like, oh no, it's if I don't win my division, I just might not be in the playoffs at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like this. I feel like it's a compromise, more teams, but I still get that like super scary. I need to win my division, and then it's a great like if your team isn't in the 1-game wild card, it is like Game 7 of the World Series, an awesome watch. And if you are involved, as we've both been involved, then it is
Thrilling.
prime viewing. Oh my, like it's. I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration. It's like a taste of a World Series game because
Yeah.
there's nothing else like it.
It's electric. And yeah, no, and let's make no mistake, the changes that the league has been making uh have not been made with the sole intention of um making the most entertaining or fair format possible. uh there's a pretty big financial component that's driving this. More playoff teams equals um more money for the league. So that is for sure a huge motivating factor. Um, you know, in making these, playoff expansions.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's like it was like I like reminiscing. It was a good. It was almost 10 years of having a 1-game wild card, and now that it's gone, maybe for good. I mean, the only thing I could hope is maybe there'll be a format in the future that although there's still this many teams, maybe there's like maybe the 1-game wild card gets involved somehow.
Yeah.
That's what I can hope. Uh, so that was a lot of rule change. We didn't even talk about expansion, but I mean more teams feels good, so sure. Uh, there's a lot of little things. Oh, here, I almost forgot. The most fun one is in 2003 until 2016. You'd actually have to like look at the newspaper the next day to see who won the All-Star game because that's who had home field advantage for the World
Mm.
Series. It's just a weird quirk of like now I look back like why did we do that? Like it's not because sometimes we did it because we've always done it, but no, actually, uh, that's only 2003 or 2016 if that was the case.
That's funny. I thought it would have been around for more than that. No, I mean, to me, the obvious answer would be to, um, encourage more uh, intrigue and, effort, um, being put into the All-Star game. But, because of how it's
Like
structured,
probably
the,
well,
you know, where you have a player from every team, like the incentives are not quite, um, it doesn't quite make sense because the team that might end up going to the World Series, which nobody knows, might have 2 players on the team. So, it mm, it makes sense to not have it, but I could see why they
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
funny because I remember like we're AL fans, so like the biggest joke was like, oh, hey, we always win the All Star game because we won a lot in this stretch,
Yeah.
and therefore we're the home team a lot in the World Series. Although funny enough, I read a stat that in this stretch the National League won the World Series more than the American League. So that was
Mm,
funny.
interesting.
Before this, by the way, it just rotated. Like even years was AL host the World Series, odd years the NL hosted.
Which makes sense when you have as little interleague play as they did. Um,
That's a great point. Forgot about that interleague play. I mean, I like it. I'm sure if I was an older fan, I might not like it. But
I like being able to, especially living where in the area where you and I both live right now, having access to Orioles and Nationals games. It's nice knowing, that like, uh, Shohei Ohtani is going to come to town, and we get to see the star players from other teams, whereas that wasn't always
yeah, like
the
maybe like
case.
I'm willing to meet someone in the middle where they liked it how it was always like this narrow stretch of time in the like summer, and that's when you had all
Sure,
your interleague
interleague
games.
games, I could see that.
I'm willing to do, but I don't want to go to when we never play them. Like no, like
Yeah,
I want to play them.
I like as a person who attends games. Uh, that being said, I do think, and this kind of speaks to the changes in the playoff formats. I feel like divisions have been really de-emphasized. Um, and I think Red Sox Yankees are playing like only 4 series against each other. Um, two in
Sounds right
each.
because they're 13 total games.
Yeah, and that just feels a little light. Um, you know, I don't know what the right balance is. Maybe it's um, playing fewer series against teams outside of your division in your league. But I do wish, there were more, Red Sox Yankees games. And I also wish that, in terms of the playoff format, winning your division meant more. That was the best part of the two wild card era was, like we said, winning your division was critical. And
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
you get the
It
central
feels
divisions.
preferred, but not critical.
Yeah, and I think what that can lead to is, especially teams in the central divisions, um, they don't feel like they need to go all in to win the division because, like, well, if they make the playoffs, they make the playoffs, and they're not going to get the number one seed anyways, especially in the
Well,
National League, like the Dodgers.
the biggest thing is the third division, like the division winner with the worst record, still plays no wild card round. That just feels icky because now, like, do you blame the Guardians or the Tigers or the
Yeah,
Royals? That like, I could push myself to win the AL Central, but even if we do that, we're still going to play in the wild card round.
yeah,
So really, like it'd be a different story. Like the West and East, at least recently, if they win the division, are gonna have a bye. So that feels like I think that still feels valuable.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, that's the one thing. Like if I can only have one thing, I really want like make it simple. Win the division, get a bye. There
yeah,
shouldn't be like, oh, but actually you were the third team, so now you don't get a bye.
yeah. And I know we can't move to fewer playoff teams because that's where the money is. I think, ideally, I would, if it were up to me, um, I don't love 5 game series, and I'm really not a fan of um 3 game series. I would, because if you want something exciting, a 1 game wild card playoff game is really exciting. But if you want to
It
find
was where
out
it is. Yeah.
like who the quote unquote best team is, all the other basketball, hockey, they all do 7 games, and they have fewer games in the regular season than than baseball, yet baseball can't manage 7-game series for the division series, which the top teams play in.
Yeah. And by the way, it's not unheard that change is not unheard of because I didn't bring this up. There was a time where the LCS was 5 games, and then 1 year changed to 7 games. So we've explained it before. This sounds like a great future topic. I think we dedicate an episode to playoff formats,
playoff,
like
yeah,
just ideas we had. But yeah, that's all of our rule changes. We spent quite a while on them, and notice there weren't that many outs. I mean, you even gave one of them a hit by pitch and not an out. So
yeah,
that would by this metric, it feels like we like baseball changes.
yeah. I mean, I think in general, it. I mean, that's one advantage to moving slowly is, um, it you do take your time to go through the changes and make sure they make sense. Um, there's some that I would, you know, you know,
Of
playoff
course.
structure. I have some gripes with. Um, I obviously have gripes with the ghost runner. Um,
And we didn't talk about some of the what we probably just call like intentional walk or something. Like there's
yeah,
a the bases are bigger now. Was a 2023 rule.
yeah,
Um, there's a whole bunch of equipment changes. Like there's some just stuff that isn't relevant, and also a lot of it is that we talked about is clustered to like the 2000s.
yeah.
So if we were living in the 70s, maybe like adding a DH changed the fabric of reality. Like that would be crazy. That would have be more impactful, obviously, if we lived at that
Well,
time.
and if the changes end up being that negative, in all likelihood, they'd probably change them back. At the end of the day, you know, you know, Manfred and the owners are here to make money, and if people lose interest and stop watching, they're gonna, try to figure out why, and that's exactly how we ended up with the pitch clock. So,
Yeah. So a weird, good job, Rob Manfred episode? Question mark. Well, and but see,
um,
like, early,
let's
well,
I don't know if, might
we
not
leave
go
that to
too
you,
far.
good listener, to decide if you want to give him credit. But all right, thanks everyone for joining the first 2025 episode of the RtG Baseball podcast. Little light on the fantasy this time, but we just started. You can expect the longer the season goes, the more balanced each section's gonna be. And if
The more
you have,
storylines will pop up.
oh yeah, that's gonna be great. That like we could. I love talking. And yeah, I think you do show like rules and strategy and stuff. But we in the future for the IRL part we might have like, hey, this happened on Tuesday in the Yankees game. Let's talk about it. Like, there's gonna be some cool stuff to go into. Uh, but yeah, anything you want to tell your competition in the league, Coach Andrew?
Uh, don't be fooled by the slow start. Made it deep into the playoffs before, and it's gonna happen again.
Talk to me when you've won the big one. Then, then I'll believe.
Yeah.
Uh, well,
There, there's, there's a first for everything.
but all right, folks. Until next time. Ciao.
Chasing homers, let the good times roll. Every swing's a chance to take control.